Hey guys, so I wanted to do something a little different this time. I know we're waiting and everybody's anticipating the number one tip in our top 10 tips to optimize cloud using FinOps. I figured why don't we really quickly kind of go through the first nine in summary. We'll talk about it a little bit and then we'll get to the top tip. So just to remind everybody, number 10 had to do with evaluating workload needs. And the one thing I'll say is the thing I really appreciate about this framework is that you can think of these tips as like a maturity kind of a roadmap. Don't underestimate the amount of analysis and preparation it takes to really get the most out of cloud. We don't recommend just going and doing a lift and shift out into the cloud and then optimizing from there. It does take a lot of planning. So in the spirit of all of that, number 10 was evaluating workload needs. Making sure that you're really being mindful about the workloads that you want to put out into the cloud and whether a hyperscaler is the right solution for you. There are tools that you can use to determine, the right type of environment, the right type of solution based on the workload. Number 9 was about evaluating early lock-in to commitment discounts. Keeping in mind that obviously hyperscalers, cloud vendors, they want to get you in and keep you. And so, be mindful about any sort of discounts that you may get and commitments that you have to make to sort of avoid or limit your flexibility in the future. And then number 8, managing cloud egress fees. So again, once you put something out into the cloud, keep in mind there's stickiness there, and it does cost to migrate those applications out of the cloud, and in particular, the data that's associated with those workloads. So, Ben, I'll hand it over to you for next week.
All right. Well, there you go. So the one thing we know we all create a ton of, and it's getting faster, is data. And guess what, folks? Every piece of data you store, you pay for. And so one of the key things associated with managing your costs is putting in a data lifecycle management. This is inventory, folks. And the more inventory you have, the more you store. And guess what? There are various storage tiers. And if you need something right now and it's got to have good access, that is, standard S3 bucket, right? If you need something once a year, you start moving to Glacier, right? And you start moving to things that you could access, but it's only once a year. Guess what? It could be a 80% savings to move from standard to infrequent access. And guess what? It's kind of like inventory. Unless you actively manage it and have a life cycle management, it's not going to go to the lower cost tier by itself. So that is tip number 7. Number 6, spot instances. When you don't need to run your workload just the point you need it. If you have things that are containerized, that are resilient that can start and stop, you can use spot instances. And guess what? I've seen savings 60, 70, 80, 90%. If you can use spot instances and not, I can't imagine all your workloads need to go be on right now. I mean, that's just dumb, right? It's kind of like, I got to have the engine running just in case. Well, maybe not if you just got to go to the store and get some bread, right? You don't need a Ferrari engine underneath that. The last thing that from number 5 is resource tagging. There is a way to keep track of this stuff. And that means tagging. But guess what? Just like in the library, you got to have a system to tag things. If your organization doesn't have a way to name all its asset, that doesn't say you got to classify by asset, by resource, by cost center, and you don't have a strategy, then you won't be able to keep track of where stuff is. So the point here is have a resource tagging strategy, have clearly well-defined things that you tag things by. One letter means it's tagged differently now, right? And so tag things, and that way you at least know what you got. Off to you, Trent.
All right, Trent.
Thanks, man. So number 4 was, just as a reminder, automating your cost optimization. So there's obviously several ways to do this. Probably one of the most common is to use auto scaling. So, sometimes forecasting can be a little difficult, and sometimes workloads need to scale up and scale down based on the time of day, in the month, that sort of thing. So using auto scaling can allow you to scale those resources up and down automatically based on demand. Number three was right sizing. Obviously, this is easier said than done when something gets provisioned, but oftentimes a lot more resources are provisioned for a given capability than what's actually needed. So utilize those cloud service provider tools to actually go in and see what your workload's actually doing. If you're giving a ton of CPU to something, or a larger EC2 in the AWS world than it's needed, you're paying for stuff that you don't need. Lastly, number two, so this is around the governance policy. As Ben talked about, resource tagging. In my mind, that's key. Actually knowing what's out there, what it's related to, whether it's cost center, whether it's application. So by creating those rules and best practices, and what your cost optimization targets are, and setting up things like budgets alerts, you'll better be in front of those costs before it's 3 months down the road and your budget's blown in your cloud environment. So I think number one, we'll turn it back over to Ben.
Go for it.
All right, folks.
Drum
All
roll.
right.
We've been waiting for this moment.
We've been waiting. All right. Number one. This is the number one, right? Guess what, folks? In AWS, Azure, or Google, there are things called Cost Explorer, Cost Management, and in Google Cloud Cost Management that are reports. These are portals that keep track of what you're spending. And if you don't know how to use them, if you don't know how to access them, that is job number one. And that is the starting point, is use the reports, the cost visibility and reporting, and guess what? And make sure everyone sees it, right? I got to tell you, if folks don't know you're spending it, it's just going to keep on running. And unless you have the governance procedures that say, you know what, if you're spending, more than, XYZ on EC2 every month, well, it's just going to keep on running. And those, it's really easy to spin up, which means they keep running until you shut them down. So use your cost visibility and reporting. Back to you, Sean.
All right, sounds good. Well, hey, so this concludes our top 10 tips to optimize cloud using FinOps. And, as we've said before, this is all in preparation for the next Cloud Nirvana conference, April 5th, 2 p.m. It's going to go until 5 o'clock, and then we'll have a happy hour for 1 hour until 6 p.m. Really, really looking forward to it. We've got a great agenda. We've got some fantastic speakers lined up. So I don't know about you guys. I'm super excited. I can't wait. And we'll see you there.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing everyone. And guess what? Be a hero to your CFO.
Well said. All right, thanks, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.